Hi, how are you? I hope you're having a great day. When we feel that others don't understand the fibromyalgia disability, it can lead to feelings of isolation and solitude. Some will begin to think that no one cares and they're on their own. Maybe you were an outgoing person prior to fibromyalgia, and now you find it difficult to even leave your house. For many of us, medication doesn't get rid of 100% of the pain. It helps, but it isn't foolproof. Directing our energy from finding a cure to living a fulfilling and satisfying life despite pain is the answer. And we don't have to live in a constant state of feeling stressed. So where or how should we direct our energy? That's what I'd like to talk about today. Here we go. Some people get to a place of being symptom-free. They're able to find treatments that work for them, but it's more like a short or long-term remission that can last for years. I was almost at that place at one point, a couple years after fibromyalgia. But as soon as an overlapping condition or a distressful situation occurs, it can cause severe pain to reignite itself, fibromyalgia full-blown once again. So don't let those people who tell you how good they're doing cause you to feel less than. We're all in a different place in our fibromyalgia journey. For those people who are symptom-free, stay as stress-free as possible to reduce the risk of fibromyalgia symptoms coming back full swing. We have a stress-induced disease, and so lowering your stress is the most important thing you can do. It's called a hyperactive stress response. Our fight or flight response is always on guard. When we perceive a threat, a multitude of physiological changes and the brain sets off an alarm throughout our central nervous system. Things that I'm about to talk about in this section might be triggering for you. So please take deep breaths and relax while listening. I even had to do that while I was writing this. Or feel free to skip it, but there is some good information here. Afterwards, I'll talk a little bit about what you can do to improve your symptoms, and I'll provide more information in part 3. So let's get started. Our heart rate and respiration increases with a hyperactive stress response. That's just normal. Then blood pressure increases. We feel nauseous or get an upset stomach. Our appetite will increase or decrease. We're easily startled and have lower back pain. We can get tunnel vision, feel uncoordinated, have headaches, experience muffled hearing. That ever happened to you? Boy, it has me. We'll sweat or get chilled easily, have muscle twitching, become light sensitive, have the feeling of a lump in our throat, experience more fatigue and aching muscles. We'll have libido changes, experience menstrual cycle changes, allergies, asthma, or arthritis flares up. We'll experience hair loss, and have a decreased resistance to colds, flus, or infections. These are the physiological responses to be aware of. But there's also psychological or emotionally charged responses. We may have anxiety, feel sad, moody, or depressed. We may worry about the safety of others or of ourselves. We may become irritable or anger easily. We might have vivid or distressing dreams. We can feel lonely, lost, or isolated. Or we become restless, overwhelmed, helpless, or hopeless. Then there's the behavior responses. We may experience changes in activity levels, have difficulty communicating, may have a change in job performance, or have an inability to rest, relax, or just let down. We may become irritable, have angry outbursts, or frequent arguments. We may experience changes in sleep patterns or eating habits, or may have periods of crying. Additionally, we may become accident prone, avoid activities or places that trigger memories. We may increase our use of tobacco, alcohol, drugs, sugar, or caffeine. We may become hypervigilant about safety or the surrounding environment, or have an increased sense of humor like gallows humor, where we use humor that may be dark and ironic about a desperate or hopeless situation. And then we may begin to have cognitive problems. We may have memory problems or forgetfulness, be disoriented, confused, have slow thinking, analyzing or comprehending moments. We may have difficulty making decisions or setting priorities. We may have limited attention span, and we can't concentrate, can't be objective, or maybe can't stop thinking about an incident. And lastly, our social life may change. We may withdraw or isolate from others. We may have difficulty listening, sharing ideas, or engaging in mutual problem solving. We may blame others for things that probably aren't their fault. We may criticize others. We may be intolerant of the group process. We may have difficulty giving or accepting support or help, or become impatient with others or disrespectful of others. Wow. Our bodies cause all of that when we're faced with a situation that's overwhelming. Fibromyalgia can cause an overactive stress response. We need to keep those symptoms in check. When we experience a racing heart, balled fists, dilated pupils, shallow, rapid breathing, and tense muscles, it's a clear sign that our involuntary reactions are occurring. Fight or flight has begun. The adrenal glands start pumping hormones to either confront the threat or leave it as quick as possible. And in chronic fight or flight, due to the irregularity of the autonomic nervous system and the automatic response in fibromyalgia, like our heart rate, our blood pressure, and muscle stiffness, this response is unhealthy because all this leads to fatigue, anxiety, depression, panic disorders, PTSD, joint tenderness, TMJ, tenderness in muscle groups, including the neck and shoulders. I get pretty tense there. and IBS. So it's time to calm our system and alleviate those symptoms. To do this, it's important to start various techniques known to help us. Deep breathing. I learned this when I was working on my Ph.D. and my dissertation, where you write a book and defend it. This is my book. Yeah, a lot of pages in here. 355 to be exact. It was very stressful, and I found myself experiencing new symptoms that were very alarming. I got a frozen shoulder. You ever had that? It's very painful. You can't move your shoulder, becomes tight. You can't lift your arm up. It's where the connective tissue enclosing the joint thickens and tightens. I got plantar fasciitis, severe lower back pain, and was diagnosed with lumbar radiculopathy. And my hip pain, which I thought I had under control, began to flare up. I was diagnosed with severe sleep apnea after losing some eyesight due to non-arteritic ischemic optic neuropathy. I was diagnosed with chronic esophagitis caused by GERD. My allergies got worse. My cholesterol went through the roof due to unhealthy eating. And in the midst of all that, I gave a double blood donation to the Red Cross. I mean, I wanted to do good. I've got one of the rare ones, but I got severely anemic and had to take a lot of iron to get it back up and rest quite a bit. And then I found out I had osteoarthritis in my hands. Is it all just a coincidence? I don't think so. So I learned that I needed to calm down. Because of all this, it was affecting my work. So I knew I had to get it under control. So when sitting or lying down, I would take a normal breath and then do deep breaths slowly through my nose. And allow my chest and lower belly to rise and fill my lungs. I breathed out slowly through my mouth or my nose, depending on what was comfortable at the time. And sometimes I used a word to help me to stay focused while I was relaxing, because my brain and thoughts can go everywhere. So my code word was often the word love. And I would just think, love. Love. A great feeling. At other times, I would think about a waterfall, but I'm not very good at imagery, so I often would turn on YouTube, have a waterfall with the sounds, maybe a stream coming down through, and I would sit or lie down and just listen to those sounds. Is there anything more beautiful than a waterfall? Mountains are beautiful, but they don't make that soothing sound. There's something about that for me. You got to find what works for you. And I still do this from time to time when I'm feeling stressed. So then I also learned that, okay, focus on each section of the body while listening to the waterfall sounds. And I would allow my body to just relax. And I would think about my fingers on my right hand. Are they relaxed? Relax them. Then my hand and wrist, my lower arm, my upper arm, my right shoulder, relax. I'd move over to the other hand, relax those fingers, relax my hand, relax my wrist, my upper arm. I mean, it's really a godsend and something we can do. It doesn't cost a dime. You just have to take the time to do it. And it calms the central nervous system and our autonomic nervous system. It's a mindfulness approach to relaxation. And I thank you for letting me kind of go through that. I feel quite relaxed at the moment. It's about taking care of ourselves. We can control how we respond to stress, but it takes practice. I want to bring hope and light into the darkness that we've allowed in our lives. Darkness is not from God. He brings light and comfort. So allow him, God Almighty, to do that for you. This ends part 2. Pretty sure there's going to be a part 3. And I hope you've learned something. I send you gentle hugs and support. Love you. Day. Breaths. Afterwards, I'll talk a little bit, have in our involuntary react, or leave it as quick as, and I found, because of all of this, it was affecting my performance. Because of all this, we can do this. Can you hear my washer? Sorry about that if you can.